Hello and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Friday, June 9th, 2017, and this is episode 21. My name is Carol and my Ravelry ID is Knits and Pearls. You can find the show notes for this and every episode on the blog at astitchintimepodcast.blogspot.ca, or you can also find them in the episode thread in the Ravelry group. And the Ravelry group can be found by searching A Stitch in Time Podcast under the Groups tab. Please come by, introduce yourself in the welcome thread, and if you like, you can join in the Agatha Christie Along, which is a very casual knit along I'm running in conjunction with reading my way through my Agatha Christie collection. We have two very recently finished projects in that thread by Sharon and Jackie, so go on by and check them out. It's another short episode this week. I have a couple of finished projects to share with you, several works in progress. A couple of them are brand new, and a little bit about what I'm reading and a little bit about what's been going on this week. Like all weeks seem to be, it's been pretty busy, some highs and lows, and we'll talk about that at the end of the episode. So, first things first, my first finished project, which I'm very happy to share with you. These are my blue tit socks. And they are my blue tit socks because I previously knit a pair for my daughter, and those were her blue tit socks. So these are mine. As you can see, I've knit them with complementary heels, cuffs, heels, and toes. And the yarn I used was West Yorkshire Spinner Signature 4-ply. There's the yarn label. And the patterned yarn is 818 Blue Tit, and the complementary yarn is 240 Butterscotch, this beautiful golden yellow. So those are done. I will add those to the growing pile of socks I've knit this year, and I look forward to wearing them. So the other finished project I have, at long last, I thought it was never going to end, is my Fairy Hill Shawl by Helen Stewart. This is the first shawl in the new Shawl Society 2 collection, and I knit it from this beautiful merino silk yarn from Sweater Maker. That's an indie dyer on Vancouver Island, and this yarn is called Fiona. As you can see, it's a 50% silk, 50% merino. It's a lace weight yarn. And this is all I had left. I really wanted to use up as much of the skein as I could. I was left with 1 gram. I love these colors, and I realized, I kept trying to think of how I would describe them, and I finally one day the perfect word came to mind. To me, they're like watercolor. Watercolor colors, that soft, almost pastel, muted. One of my favorite all-time lines from a song is from Al Stewart's The Year of the Cat, and he says, "She came out of the sun in a silk dress running like a watercolor in the rain." And to me, this sums that up very, very perfectly. So I thought those colors were very fairy-like, which is why I chose them for this shawl. So, here it is. It's all blocked. So in order to get the most of the yarn, I added 3 repeats of this lace section here. And then I added 3 repeats of this lace section here before I bound off. So I do like the way the yarn and the stitch pattern look together. I'll just give you a good look here. Now, as you can see, it has a very wide wingspan. When I blocked it out, it took 8 blocking mats across, which means it is 8 feet across. This may be one of those cases when less is more. I was so intent on using up all of the yarn, and I, in my mind, because it was lace weight, it wouldn't block out as large as the original shawl, which was made with fingering weight, and so I really thought, well, adding the extra few repeats in lace weight would maybe make it about the same size as the medium version, and I really thought, well, I can still, it's fine enough, I can bunch it up and wear it, you know, as a scarf still, and not, it you know, would still be okay, because that's how I wear most of my shawls. And while it's true that, you know, the depth is workable, there is like miles and miles. Oh, where's the rest? Of end to this shawl. I think got some rather nice finished project photos for it and arranged it on a hanger, and it all looked very lovely. And the truth is, I fiddled with it on myself, and I'm not really sure about wearing it. It's the tails are so long that even if I were to wear it, you know, like just across my shoulders, I still, like, the tails just go on forever. I'm not very tall. I'm only 5'3". So I'm not sure what the fate of this shawl is. I may see if I can find a recipient who is more appreciative of the longer length, the bigger size. I may, God forbid, decide to frog it and reknit it into either the smaller version or something else. At this point, I don't want to make any commitments. But look how pretty that looks over the black of my top. It really shows off the pattern well. It's a lovely pattern, and maybe I'll knit it again in fingering weight and do the small version, and I might be happier with the finished result. As I said, I think the shawl itself is lovely. It's just I don't really wear shawls, you know, kind of like that, and I don't know when I'll ever wear it. But for now, I'm just admiring its beauty, and I'm sort of thinking on it. So we'll see what the ultimate fate of this project becomes. But for now, I'm very happy to be finished, and you'll see in a minute I've started the second shawl from the collection. But first, I'll show you my new pair of socks that I have going on for the Grocery Girls June sock bash. Now, last week I said I hadn't really given a lot of thought to what I was going to do this month, and that's true. But one of the things in the back of my mind was that I might knit some socks with my dad in mind. Last Saturday was the 2nd anniversary of when he passed away. So he's been on my mind a lot, and I thought I might do something that brought him to mind. And then when I went and looked at the Grocery Girls chatter thread for the sock bash, one of the theme for the month is guys in your life, and you can knit a man's sock or a sock for one of the men in your life, or a pattern designed by a man, or the fourth one was a colorway, yarn colorway that in some way reminded you of a man in your life. And so then I knew for sure what I was going to do. And I cast on these socks in West Yorkshire Spinners again, the Signature 4-ply. And this patterned yarn is called Mallard. Now, one of the things my dad really liked were ducks. He'd kind of joke around and make, quacking sounds, and he had quite a large collection of duck pictures and duck figurines and such. Whenever I would give him a birthday card or a Father's Day card, the theme would either be ducks or fishing. So those were two things that he really, really loved. That and hockey. Those were probably his three main passions. And so I decided to cast these socks on in memory of my dad. So I'm calling them Remembering Dad socks. I'm going to insert a picture here. So as you can see in that picture, my dad is wearing a t-shirt with a mallard duck on it. What's so special about that picture is when it was taken, none of us realized that that would be the last time that I would see my dad. It was taken just a couple of minutes before I left my mom and dad's place to go home. My sister from Toronto had come out for a visit, and so the rest of us sisters had decided to go up to the cabin to have a girls' weekend. And so we did, and we went into town Saturday morning and met up with my parents and my brother-in-law and nephew that had also come up for the weekend. They were staying in town with mom and dad because there were no boys allowed out at the lake. But so us girls went in on Saturday morning to watch the town's parade, and at that time my brother-in-law took a family photo, which we'd been together various times over the years, all 7 of us, and often there was no picture of everybody all at once, so we were really lucky to have that picture. And then my sister that had come from Toronto, she and I stayed an extra couple of days with my mom and dad in town. And just before we were leaving, she asked me to take a picture of her with my mom and dad, which I did. And then I took a picture just with my mom and dad. And then she said, "Oh, do you want me to take a picture of you?" So I said, "Sure." So I had a picture taken with my mom and dad, which I've cut my mom out of the picture in this particular shot, but it's so we were just about to leave, so we said goodbye and away we went, and he passed away a week later, very, very suddenly. And so what a treasure to have that picture and to have the family picture. After he passed away, there were just a number of things that had sort of, if you didn't know it was coming, but it made it feel like there was something in the works, and some things just worked out by chance. Serendipity, I guess, maybe that's the right word. Anyway, so that picture obviously is very special to me, and so back to the knitting. So will these socks be very special, and I'm making them for myself, and when I wear them, I'll just think of my dad, feel like they're a warm hug on my cold feet. So what you can see is that I've used the this yarn called Cinnamon Stick. Color is 632. I've used that for the cuff, and I'll use it also for the heels and toes. And then I've used the mallard here. And this is a 2x2 rib, and then I switched to a 6x2 rib with the with the patterned yarn, and I'll knit that way all the way down the foot. So I wanted to do something more than just a plain stockinette sock, so I'm quite happy with how those are turning out. They're not too complicated. I can just I don't have to think too much about as I knit, except I do have to pay attention to when I have to purl. But yeah, happy with how those are starting, and I cast them on Saturday in memory of my dad. Don't know if I mentioned that, so there'll be a very special project for me. So the next project, as I promised I would show you, is my Sprites Fen Shawl by Helen Stewart. This is the second one in the Shawl Society, so there's a look at it. And as you can see, there's feather and face and some eyelet lace. So because of the feather and fan in particular and garter stitch, I thought that this shawl could handle a variegated yarn. And I went through my stash and I kept coming back to this one. I'm probably going to shoot myself because I've chosen another lace weight yarn. This is called Fleece Artist. It's Fleece Artist Saldana, which is, as you can see, is 100% merino lace. Now this says there's 1,200 meters, 125 grams. It actually weighed up closer to 150 grams. So I have tons and tons and tons. I do plan, since the yarn is so fine, I do plan to add some extra rows to this shawl too. But I think it can take them a little more. This is one I wouldn't wear probably as a scarf. I'll use it as a shawl anyway, and this can handle it. So I chose this one. I just thought when I read the word sprite or envisioned sprite, I thought of these greens and browns, and I guess in my mind I was thinking like woodland sprite. Actually, the Sprites Fen Shawl is sort of inspired by, I believe she said, a water sprite, but that's okay. Sprite is a sprite, right? So it's actually, I've got quite a bit done. I've really enjoyed working on it so far. I was worried that I wouldn't really like working with the lace weight, especially this is much finer than the last shawl I did, but I'm actually quite enjoying it. So this is what I have done so far. I see this black shirt's not going to be as good for showing it off. Oh, maybe. No, I'll try and hold it up so you can see maybe through it. I'm about 25% of the way through, and that's why I think it won't hurt to add some extra length on this one. It won't hurt it to be a wider wingspan and deeper, because this one I will wrap around me. So it starts with just some eyelet rows here with stockinette, switches to a little bit of garter ridges, a few garter ridges, and then it moves into this feather and fan lace. And then more garter here, more stockinette with, oh no, I guess it's garter there too, and then more feather and fan. And then here it's another garter section. I've just increased for the, I guess it's, let's see, 1, 2, oh, it's got to be more than the third time. Anyway, what I'm finding interesting is that every time this, 1, here, 2, 3, this is the 4th increase. So every time I increase, the yarn behaves a little differently. So you can see it knits up quite well distributed in that first section. And then you can sort of see more rows of, dark and light in that section. This kind of knit up in patches, but they offset each other. So this started out with alternating dark and light, and then kind of changed to where it had been light, it became, where it had become was dark, it became light, and vice versa. So that kind of knit up in an interesting way. I'm going to try and hold it again. Sorry, these needles want to keep flipping around. And now it seems to be alternating between dark and light, but in smaller little patches, which I'm really happy about, because I think this is quite a large section, and I think it's where we're running into some more eyelets, I think. Yeah, it's going to be garter stitch section and then this eyelet section. So I like the way so far that it's knitting up there. I think the colors will be well distributed throughout it. So I'm excited to see how this works up. It looks a little wild, but I feel like this lace, especially when it's blocked out, can take it. So really, this is going to be one of those that I use at home to wrap up in. So really, all that matters is that I like it anyway, and I do, and I'm having fun with it. So there we go. And the last project I have to show you, I worked on Clue 2 of my Sugarcane Cardigan by Carol Feller. You can see the back detail there. And here you can see it's kind of a V-neck cardigan with a shawl collar. And Clue 3 comes out tomorrow, so I was very happy to finish Clue 2 last night. So Clue 2 finished the whole body of the sweater. So there's the front, which mostly all you can see is the inside of the back, and the back is where the majority of the interest is anyway, and then on the sides there's a lace panel that runs down each side, and then a garter stitch bottom. This looks like it's going to fit very nicely. Just when I put it on, it just lies nicely and just seems to fit really lovely. So I have great hope for this project. The yarn that I'm using is this Elan A Series DK06. And I think it was last week I said I didn't know what this kind of silk was, and then I happened to hear something about it on another podcast, and apparently it is silk that is taken from the cocoon after the moth has left the cocoon, and so it doesn't kill the moth in the production of this type of silk. So learn something new every day. Color, did I say, is called Topaz Blue, number 14. Just going to take a sip. The one downside of this sweater, this is the inside, is that the balls are only 50 grams. And so I'm finding I'm having to join in a new ball fairly frequently, and I had one section, I can't see it, where I actually had to join in a ball fairly quickly after another because I came across a knot, and so I had to join a new end, as you can see. And then I was at the very bottom, I was just about done. When I came into the knot, I joined a whole new ball rather than just join the rest of the other ball, and I thought I'll save that for a different part. So when I got near the end of the sweater and had to join in a new ball of yarn, I thought the partial ball would do me, and it didn't. I finished like that far from the end. So that's a pain in the neck. This is a kind of yarn where, I had to really think about how I was going to join it. Definitely not a magic knot. I don't do those very often anyway. I worry about them slipping. It's not a feltable yarn, so I didn't feel as though I could do a spit splice or a felted join, however you want to call that. Wet splice, some people say. So what I did do is join in the new yarn by knitting one stitch with the new yarn and the old yarn held together, and then wove in the ends. And I'll trim those after they're blocked. You can see there's some, I tried to do it. Normally I would do something like this right along the side panel, or just somewhere where it wouldn't be as noticeable. And you can see there's a little bit of pucker here from where I wove the yarn in. This is the side panel, so that's towards the back. I believe I did, I did some along by the front here. I'm really hoping when it's blocked that it will lie flat and not be too noticeable. But if it's not, I'll take them out and maybe try and weave them in along by the lace, and I think that would be, if this doesn't end up being unobtrusive enough, I think that will be a little less intrusive. So I'll see how that works out. I'm confident I can hide them quite well, but maybe I'll have to redo my original ones. But anyway, there's another look at it. It's coming along very nicely. The only modification I've made so far is that the pattern has you doing all of your decreases in the back. So this is the side panel and the lace panel, and you're supposed to do a decrease on this side and a decrease on this side, on both sides of the back. But what I chose to do instead, which was given as a suggestion, was I ended up doing my decreases and increases on either side of the side panel, so that I have shaping in the front and shaping in the back, and that seems to make the sweater lie quite nicely. I'm pleased with that decision. I'm sure it would have been fine the other way too, but I was worried that would pull the line of the sweater back, and I wanted it more to hang straight down the front. So that's that for my knitting this week. So what have I been reading? Well, I finished Mississippi Blood by Greg Iles, which I've been reading for several weeks. As I explained before, it's one in a series of several books that Greg Iles has written, and it involves the main character, Pencage, centered around his father, who is accused of murder and takes off on the run with an old army friend who has become a Texas Ranger, and subsequent events. There's a lot of secrets and a lot of things that had come from the past that were affecting the present, and so this story's been built up over several books, and you're wondering what secrets are and will they be revealed, etc., etc. And they were, for the main part. As much as I love Greg Iles and his writing, I have to say I wasn't as happy with this book as I've been with the preceding ones. I felt at the end I was kind of let down with all the hype and what I was expecting to be revealed. It wasn't as, I don't know, I was expecting more, and I found the way he kind of wrapped it up was very anticlimactic, and so still really enjoyed the book for the most part. I mean, once I got into it right away, captured my attention right away, and involved a court trial, which those are always fascinating to me, and so I enjoyed it, and it was just sort of the ending that I wasn't that satisfied with. It felt in some ways like an Agatha Christie novel where you end up having multiple suspects all at the scene of the crime, all around the same time, and it could be any one of them. And it just felt a little bit far-fetched to me that there were so many people at that very time period that could have committed this crime. I kind of forgive it in an Agatha Christie book because that's just kind of how they're written. I felt like it was a little bit far-fetched for one of Greg Iles' books. So, speaking of Agatha Christie and multiple suspects, I am also now making my way through Murder on the Orient Express, which is also called Murder in the Calais Coach. And I'm at the point of the story where the body of this American gentleman has just been discovered on the train. The train is stuck due to snow out in the middle of Yugoslavia, and this man is found stabbed in his compartment with the window open and his door locked and chained. So there's no apparent escape route for the murderer to have taken, and there's also inconsistencies in the way the crime is committed that makes it look like it could be more than one person that committed the murder, and maybe perhaps a man and a woman. So that's kind of where we're at. Hercule Poirot is on the train, and he has been asked by the train company's representative to, will he please solve this crime for them or investigate it. So that's where we're at. There's only so many suspects, I think something like 12 or 13 on this train, that any one of them, could have done it. So we have to find out who it was. So enjoy that. I know I've read this one before. Can't remember who committed the crime exactly. I have a vague recollection of maybe how this one goes, but it's still good to read, still fun to read. So continuing with that. There's sip here. Yesterday was quite cool and rainy after a stretch of hot weather. Today is a mix of sun and clouds, so I think it should turn out to be a rather nice day in the end, and supposed to be a decent weekend. So my week, well, as I told you, last week my mom was visiting, and so she had attended my great-nephew's baptism Thursday evening, and so my sister dropped her back off at our place after that, and she spent her last night here, Thursday night. And so we just hung out Friday. I got a lot of knitting on my shawl done. She had brought a crocheted Afghan down to work with, so mostly Friday we just sat and yacked, worked on our projects. And then that evening we went up to my sister's house. She's the grandma of this new baby, and so my niece and her husband were going to be there that evening, which is one of the main purposes for going up. One was to take my mom up to her place, and then my niece and her husband actually dropped her off at my cousin's place on their way back to their house. And she spent a couple nights there, and then she went and spent the remainder of her time with another sister that lived closer to the airport, and she took her to the airport on Tuesday morning, where she flew to Toronto, met another of my sisters. I have 4 altogether. And they flew to Iceland on Wednesday evening, and they got there safely. So I'm sure they've begun their tour, and I can't wait to start seeing pictures and hearing about their trip. But back to Friday, so I finally got to meet my new great-nephew, and he was a little bit cranky that evening to begin with, so every time I held him, he was fussy. So I finally, at the end of the evening, when I had a third turn, he actually was content, and I didn't feel like such a bad baby holder. You know what it's like when you hold babies, you don't want them to make you look like you don't know what you're doing. I've had 3 kids of my own and 2 grandbabies, so I do have lots of experience, but that's just silly. But you know what I mean, or maybe you don't. Anyway, he's very sweet, and my niece's husband has just actually left for a course in the Army. He's going to be gone till the beginning of August. So she's going to be spending a fair bit of time at my sister's house over the next couple of months. She lives about close to an hour from where my sister and I live. So she's going to come out fairly frequently and spend a few days. So I should get some more chances to spend some time with them over the coming weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. New babies are always so fun. So as I mentioned, Saturday was the 2nd anniversary of my dad's passing. And he passed away of a stroke at the end of what had been a very ordinary day. So it was very sudden and unexpected. He was in very good health, and so it caught all of us by surprise. And so one of the things he had been doing that day was bottling some wine. He made his own wine. It was just out of wine kits, but he used the water from the spring from our family property. And years ago, my sister had dubbed the wine coming from there as as a Porcupine Creek Estates, because the creek that runs through our property is called Porcupine Creek. So a few years ago, my brother-in-law, who's a graphic designer, he did up some wine labels for my dad's wine, took pictures of the creek, and then made these wine labels. So at Christmas, one of the traditions for the last number of years is at Christmas, my mom and dad would always give us a case of wine that my dad had made. And so this year at Christmas, my mom did give us each several bottles, and she said that that was the last of my dad's wine. And so my husband and I, Saturday night, drank our last bottle of my dad's wine and toasted his life, his memory. And so that's kind of the end of an era, which it's, you know, it really does get easier, but obviously I still miss him, you know, every day. And anyway, that's what we did Saturday, is drank to my dad. So Sunday, my husband and the rest of the curling team, which includes my brother-in-law, they were, so I just looked out the window, saw eagle go fly by. And I'm just going to see if I can see him again. No. Oh. Yeah, he's just flapping and soaring there. Anyway, sorry, squirrel or eagle. Anyway, yeah, they golfed in the tournament that the curling club was putting on. So us wives met them at the curling club after they had golfed, and then we went to one of their houses after for drinks and appies. So we had a really nice Sunday afternoon and evening with them. So it was a lovely weekend in that way. Oh, and it was also, see, the highs and lows. It was also, on Sunday was my son's 30th birthday. That's my older son. So I now have 2 children in their 30s, which is kind of hard to believe because I don't feel much older than that myself. But the other one's got about, he'll be 28 this year. So yeah, 2 more years. They'll all be in their 30s, which is kind of crazy. So on Monday evening, we've had so little time to do anything on weekends. My husband's been away a lot, and when he's not, we've been busy with other things. So we drove after work on Monday, drove into IKEA, which is about an hour's drive from here, and picked up some night tables and a new dresser for our spare bedroom downstairs. We finally, I don't think I mentioned this, for those who watched a long time, we had a flood in our basement just before Christmas, and one of the things, once all the work was done, we had to get the bed replaced, and that took forever. Finally got our mattress and box spring and headboard and had set that up in the bedroom a little while ago, but we needed some new furniture. So we picked that up at IKEA on Monday night, and then I spent Tuesday putting it together, or just about putting it together. I just needed a little bit of help with the dresser, the last few things, and my husband, he finished those off. So we got the room set up, and we had, I showed right near the beginning of the podcast, I showed you some a set of pictures that we had bought for that room. So we put those up on the wall. There's a series of 5, so we had to make sure they were level and even along the top because they go in a set of panels. So we did that. So I'll put a picture in here to show you what it looks like. So we also plan to put a picture over the bed. That space needs something, and a mirror over the dresser. So it's not quite finished, but on, I guess it was Wednesday, I had to run some errands, and one of the things I did was go into this art store and I was picking up actually another picture for another part of the house by a local artist that runs this store. He and his wife have the store. So anyway, I showed her what I had done with the bedroom and to see if she had anything that she could suggest for over the bed. And we ended up going through some catalogs and finding a picture there. So I'm actually this afternoon going to go back and order it. I wanted my husband to see it first, see if he agreed that it would work. And he did like it. So that room's just about done. Let's see what else. Oh yeah. If you have watched the last few episodes, you probably think my husband goes away a lot, and as a rule he doesn't, but as it turns out he's away this weekend too. But unlike the last 2 trips, which are work related and sort of on shorter notice, this trip's an annual event. It's a golf trip with a group of, I think there's about 40 guys that go away around this time every year to the Okanagan region. If people who are familiar with that from BC would know Osoyoos and Oliver. So they go up to Osoyoos, stay there for a couple nights, and golf Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then head home. So that's where he is. This is Friday around lunchtime, so they left early this morning, and this year my brother-in-law is going too, so he came over from Victoria yesterday. This is my husband's brother. So he's had dinner and stayed with us last evening. So he got to use the guest room. Well, actually my mom stayed in there, but she didn't have the pretty pictures up. So now, or the nice furniture. So she'll next time she stays, she can try all that out. So my brother-in-law got to be the first one in there. So anyway, so I have another weekend free in the sense that my husband's not here, so I can kind of do what I want, eat what I want, when I want. This weekend I'm not going to order Indian food as I often do. I actually had butter chicken this week in, of all places, IKEA. Who knew? We had gone right after work and thought we'll get supper somewhere along the way, so we decided just to eat at IKEA, check out what they had, and butter chicken. Who knew? So it was actually pretty good. Not quite hot enough, not spicy hot, but hot, but it was okay. Filled the hole. So yeah, so I've got my next couple days open, and I plan to do obviously some knitting. I think I'm going to do some more work on my little house quilt. It's right over there looking at me, and so I should be able to do at least another panel, if not more. Depends how I want to divide up my time. So so other than that, I'll be working on my shawl to get the second or the third clue for my cardigan tomorrow, so I'm sure I'll do some work on that. If I watch some TV, I might knit on my socks. We'll see. I still have my cozy check socks I showed you weeks ago that I planned to make for my brother-in-law for his 60th birthday, which the party's coming up in just a couple of weeks. And I don't know if that's going to get done or not, so we'll see. They're not that exciting to work on, but on the other hand, I know how much he appreciates hand-knit socks, so we'll see. Stay tuned. You'll know by next week, I think, if I decide to work on them at all. So anyway, take care until then. Have a lovely week. Thank you, as always, for watching and putting up with some of the rambling. I look forward to chatting with you on the boards, and take care. I will talk to you soon. Bye.